we are live, Michael. How are you doing
I
today?
am doing great, man. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great as well. Thank you very much.
Let us welcome all of our viewers and all of our listeners to today's live show. Martin, we want to welcome everybody to AGTP Daily. We go live every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss the most important tech stories in the United States of America. Today is Monday, the 29th of June, 2026. I want to talk about three things. And those three things I think are all kind of important. The first is Zhipu, also known as Z.AI, and others launch Mythos-like models. We'll talk about why that's important. Masayoshi Son, one of the biggest and most important investors, not just in Japan, but in the world, is throwing shade, is questioning space AI data centers in space. And will Claude tag, which I think we talked about on Friday, a new thing introduced by Claude. Is it going to kill Slack's Slackbot or Salesforce's Slackbot? I think both of these things are really interesting. Let's talk about China's Z.AI first, formerly known as Zhipu AI. Probably better to pronounce it as Z.AI. So they released this thing called GLM 5.2. It's an open weight model aimed at long horizon coding, reasoning, and agentic software work. But what's really key here is that this, along with some other Asian-based AI models, Martin, they're filling a gap. So you remember back on June 12th, Fable 5 and Mythos 5 was suspended under U.S. export control directive.
Yes.
And on the 26th of June, I think we actually talked about this, ChatGPT 5.6 was also banned, or its rollout was actually slowed. So the U.S. government is really concerned about having these really powerful models in the hands of people that may be able to use it in a way that's nefarious and not necessarily for the betterment of society. And what Asia, and mostly in this case China, is saying is, yeah, we kind of don't care, because the models that they're putting out there now are very specifically in GLM 5.2. It's open, right? And this was pushed out right after the U.S. Commerce Department moved against Anthropic's Fable 5 and Mythos 5. And it's pretty clear here what they're trying to do. The U.S. is trying to control access to the most sensitive AI capabilities, and China is basically showing it can build competitive capability in these narrow sort of high-value domains and release it pretty openly, right? So one of the things we talked about last week was, how important is it, and is it just a marketing ploy for these companies to say that their models out there are just too dangerous for everyone to receive? But the key here for me is that while Mythos and Fable 5 are positioned as really powerful cybersecurity models, and they're afraid of not just the people that are using it for defense, but for the people that are using it on offense, the Chinese AI ecosystem is much less concerned about this. And they are out there, you're laughing, but they're out there actually releasing these models in a way that shows that they don't really care, right? The cybersecurity concern, I think, is real. Everyone to whom we speak, even people that aren't involved in the model business, are saying that every time the AI capabilities increase, whether it's agentic AI or generative AI or any kind of artificial intelligence, but the models as well, that anytime the capabilities increase, they worry more and more about cybersecurity, particularly the large sort of international crime syndicate style cybersecurity, not just like two guys in a basement trying to figure this out, right? And while AI doesn't necessarily create cybersecurity dominance per se, it does make it a lot easier to find flaws in existing systems, which we know that really well. That was the whole point of Glasswing, if you remember correctly. And the idea that one country, we talked about this, right? We could have done an entire story, just so you know, on the fact that Mythos and Fable 5 are also available in China. Because once they were out there, they were downloaded. And there are plenty of ways that people could get access to it before they were banned. And they are actually using some of these models that they're not meant to use. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least if some of those models were actually being used to train the Chinese models, or at least so they can get a better understanding of how those models are working. But I wouldn't underestimate China's ability from a pure engineering standpoint, software engineering standpoint, to be able to build better, more efficient models than the cybersecurity stuff that's coming out of the United States. And one of the things you and I have always been talking about for the past few months is the models that are coming out of China, particularly the open source models, are catching up really, really quickly. Now, I also wanted to talk about Japan's Sakana AI as well. And you and I did a little bit of the podcasting before the podcast, but for people that aren't as familiar with Japan and the Japanese market, Sakana is actually a word that means fish. And they launched a model called Fugu, which I'll get to that in a second. But most people who've ever been to a sushi restaurant know what Fugu means. It's blowfish. And this model, just to say what the model was about, it's more important than the name, although the name is kind of interesting, was built around this idea of orchestration rather than a single monolithic model. And the idea here is that companies and governments should not depend on one provider for frontier capability, particularly if access can disappear suddenly. And that's the whole point of this story, is that sure, back on January 12th, the US government said no more Fable 5, no more Mythos 5. And then following that up on June 26th, which was Friday, they said also no GPT 5.6. So Sakana's model actually, meaning their business model, seems to be really appropriate here. And just to put a finer point on it, Fugu is blowfish, which means it's the kind of fish that if you cut it incorrectly, if you're not an expert at cutting Fugu, you could eat like a bad part of the fish and die. Anyway, so
That's a nice joke.
it's a nice joke, but I think their whole point is, first of all, the guys and gals that run Sakana AI have a sense of humor. That's nice, but more importantly, they also have very strong technical skills. And remember, one of the things that you and I talk about a lot is the, and I think I spoke to somebody about this today. Yeah, you were there. I spoke to somebody about this today on ATP Insights. And the idea here is that the models are going to be commoditized regardless of whether you're paying for them or not. And a company like Sakana is just going, we don't know which model is going to win, and we don't care. We just want to build an orchestration layer for that so that you can have access to all the models. And if one of them drops out, it's just going to, our model here, our business model is going to allow you to use the most efficient and the best place model in the case that you're trying to use. Yeah? How does that sound?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of things, a lot of very interesting things here. I think the first one is you're right. Like in China, they are not concerned about the cybersecurity risk at all, right? Like
No,
everything we
no,
hear in the
don't care.
West about Fable, Mythos, way too dangerous, and all of that. And in China, they just release the model and they don't care at all. So maybe it was okay until the latest model. But if you look at everything that has been done online since ZAI, Zhipu AI released GLM 5.2, people basically say it's as good as Opus 4.8, it's as good as Fable, it's as good as Mythos.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's really the first time that open source model from China in this case, but it's true globally as well, is actually today compared to the frontier model, to the latest frontier model. Because all the time it was like, okay, it's good, but it's not good enough, it's a little bit late, blah, 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 right? But this time it's not the case, right? This time it's like, okay, it's actually good enough. And for those who want to learn more about that, I just like I'd invite you to just search on YouTube, like GLM 5.2 versus Opus. You will find a ton of video, a ton of people who say I stop using Opus for GLM 5.2 for video editing, for writing, for coding, for like every use case that you want. People right now say and praise so much and say so much good thing about the GLM 5.2 from Zhipu. So it's really, I think, the first time that something like this happens when the open source models are compared to the frontier, right? And at the same time, as you say, China looks like not worrying at all about cyber security, which really
I would
raised
say zero, yeah.
the question to me, like, is there really a cyber security threat, or is it all marketing from the Americans?
So I think this goes back to that thing that you sent me today
Yeah,
about the
exactly.
the Mac Pro G4.
Let's maybe show
I wonder if
the
you can
video
show
to.
that ad. And while you're doing that, I want to also point out something about this, because what does this really prove about China's AI capability is another question that I would ask. And the point that I would make here is, let's not leave out of the conversation the fact that GLM 5.2 was built in China.
Mhm.
It was built for long context software work, and it was built without the benefit of training on NVIDIA chips.
Yes.
And I don't want to leave the last point out. I think the last point may actually be one of the most important points, if not the most important point, because what does it say about their ability to run an efficient model that, as you said, is almost as good as 4.8 or 5.5, and almost as good, if not as good, as Mythos 5 or Fable 5. And they have not been able to use the most modern chips.
Yeah.
So I think this is actually really significant, because if they can get close to performance in these high value tasks without the same access to the best NVIDIA chips, then it's kind of like, who can target the right capability with the right architecture and the right data? Are you showing the ad now?
Yes, I have the ad ready that we
You want to
can show
go?
after.
But let's just tee this up for a second, though, before you
Yes.
show this ad. So before Mythos came out at all, and same actually for 5.6, you know, both of these companies were like, it's too dangerous to release. And we also said, when Dario Amodei was back at OpenAI, when ChatGPT 2.0 came out, that it was too powerful to release.
Yes.
And you and I were both joking, or at least pointing out the fact that maybe this is just a marketing thing. And for people that don't remember, this Mac Pro G4 came out in 1999. Okay, watch the ad.
I'm not playing with the sound, but basically,
But Martin, they do have closed captions.
Ah, do they have that?
So start
Okay,
again
okay.
and put on the closed captions.
Okay. Just put it. For
For the first time in history, a personal computer has been classified as a weapon by the US government. This is in 1999. With the power to perform over 1 billion calculations per second, the Pentagon wants to ensure that the new Power Macintosh G4 does not fall into the wrong hands. So as for the Pentium PCs, well, they're fine. They're harmless. So, but the point is, like, it's a funny ad. But I think the point here is that 27 years ago, the same argument was being made about a computer that today we would consider so underpowered as to be trivial.
Yes. So that's what, like, this whole idea of, like, okay, they say it's too dangerous to be released and blah 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 on the US side only, right? Because once again, China is not doing that at all, and anyone else outside of China is not doing that at all, sorry. And right now, you can't even say that the model are not as strong as the Americans ones, because once again, there's a lot of people who would say that, yeah, like ZAI GLM 5.2 maybe the first one to actually be able to rival with the unreleased model in the US, right? So I think, like, to me, like, this really shows, Michael, that the next step is going to be to ban the Chinese model in the US. I don't see any other way.
But how do you? But again, how do you do that?
Yeah,
how do you ban software that's on the internet, that's been released, that's probably in GitHub? Like, what do you do?
That's why I think they didn't do it yet, because they don't have the answer. But I think they are working really, really hard on that. First, it's Chinese. Every time China release something big that is going to compete with the US, they just ban it. They never want to really compete with them. And now, if people start saying, hey, GLM 5.2 is as strong as Fable, I think that actually it just set up the context perfectly. Like, if you want to ban the Chinese model right now, you ban first the US one, so then it doesn't look like you are anti-China. You just say, okay, it's just way too dangerous for everybody. We also need to ban these ones as well, right? And then you just put them into the same batch. And then from a communication point of view, from a PR point of view, it's gonna be much better, much easier for people to swallow. Because let's remind also the audience that a lot of people use Chinese models in the US. So it's not going to be easy to say to everyone, okay, you get to stop using the Chinese model. So they will have to change a lot of things. Maybe they will just ban the Frontier at GLM 5.2 and let people use the other one. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think we are going to see a ban of Chinese model in the US. I don't see any other possibility.
But you know what's going to happen, though, right?
Tell me.
So people are going to drive to Mexico. They're going to buy a BYD, and they're going to bring the model home with them from Mexico.
Exactly. We are going to buy a computer on which GLM 5.2 is installed. And then I go back home.
Put it into their brand new BYD and drive it back to Austin.
Probably, right? Very
But
likely,
can I
actually.
point
Yeah.
out something else in a
Mhm.
completely different domain, just so people can get their
Yeah.
heads around like what banning stuff does that people actually really want?
Yes. It's true.
On January 17th, 1920, the United States, as a country, you probably don't even know this,
Tell me.
banned alcohol.
Oh, yeah. hmm
It was called prohibition.
hmm
You could make alcohol. You could sell it in Canada. You could sell it in Mexico. There are still counties in the United States, like where Jack Daniels is made.
Oh, yeah.
You can't drink in that county,
Oh, really? Still
but you
now?
can buy Jack Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is that, like, for 13 years, almost 14 years, there was the whole thing was called prohibition. But did people stop drinking? No, they just drank in speakeasies and clubs and fake. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and alcohol is a physical thing that you could actually touch and feel, and you had to like transport from place to place. It's not like software. So this idea that you think that you can ban software,
Mhm.
which is easily downloadable, easily transferable, and like all this other kind of stuff, is
Mhm.
silliness. But the other question that I want to raise here, Martin, is why is cybersecurity the place that people are really focused on? Like, why? Like, I get the fact, and because I want to make a point here, I get the fact that it's like dual use by default, if you know what that means. In other words, attackers can use it, but defenders can use it. So a defender can just as easily find a flaw in their system as an attacker can, but maybe the attacker can do it faster because they're much more interested in getting the spoils of finding that that hole.
Mhm.
But the flip side of this is, how about like, why don't we care about chemical engineering
Yeah.
or
So
atomic engineering or any of these
yeah.
other things where like it's really, really like really dangerous? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, no one's going to drop a cybersecurity bomb on you, but someone could drop a nuclear bomb on you or an atomic bomb
So
and all this other stuff where like it's easily available to figure out how to do that using artificial intelligence, but no one's banning that stuff. Why does that make sense?
I think that's why they use cybersecurity, because it's scary without being too dangerous. So from a
But
marketing
doesn't that
angle,
mean it's all BS then at the end of the day?
I mean, that's my theory. That's what I would bet on. If I
But
had if I had to pick a side, I would definitely pick the side of it's all marketing. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Mhm.
but they're still banning the model. Like the US government, the Commerce
Yeah,
Department literally did ban the release
but
of
like,
5.6 or slow it down. So are they really, because that's not something that OpenAI did. That's something that the government did.
well, it's
So the government is
Anthropic.
involved in OpenAI's marketing. It doesn't make any sense.
No, I think to me, it's just part of, I don't know. Like, I don't want to sound like it's a conspiracy theory, but but to me, it's like, I think the whole thing, first of all, with Mythos, Michael, from day one, it was so weird, right? Like they announced the model, they don't release it, they do Project Last Wind, and then it become available, but it's not, and then it's banned. Like
Right.
like the entire thing from the get-go seems orchestrated for me. Like it's something that they have thought about, right? And so first of all, when you look at the gain that they can get from that, first of all, huge marketing, because they take the lead in terms of, we are able to create models that are so good that they are too dangerous to be released. So from a marketing angle, that's really, really good. And plus, when you say to people like, hey, look, our super strong model is only available to these 10 companies in Project Test Wins, what are the over 490 Fortune 500? Like, they also want to get access to the model. So what are they ready to pay for it, right? Like, this type of sales strategy, I'm sure, works really, 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 really well. And in the context of, like, you want to IPO or you need to IPO really, really soon to avoid this type of Zhipu 5.2, like, becoming too strong, it doesn't hurt to build marketing campaign beforehand, right? And also, like, the fact that OpenAI followed and just did the exact same thing, right? Like, they could have all their models, they could have just said, yeah, we used to start 5.5, we do it, and we're gonna do something else later. Once again, they do the exact same thing. Both of them do the exact same thing. Once one is doing something, the other one does the exact same thing the week after. They both filed for IPO, they both, like, recruit engineer, and they announce at the same time. But, like, that guy from Google DeepMind, John OpenAI, and that guy from Google DeepMind, John Anthropic, they do the exact same thing. Like, every week they do the exact same thing. So no, to me, it's like the roadshow to IPO. It's all part of the roadshow to IPO, and it just helped from a marketing and sales standpoint. to just show how strong they are. And plus, now it's going to help as well to ban the Chinese as well. Now it's going to give them ground to just say, look, guys, you can't ban us and also and let the Chinese open source and just do whatever they want. So no, you get to ban them as well. And now they're going to help them at least on the domestic market for having much less competition.
So let's be clear that Mythos 5 was banned for foreigners.
True, that's the point, yeah.
And Fable 5 was banned for foreigners.
Yes.
So, and also for foreigners that are inside both of these companies. And
yeah.
OpenAI's 5.6 was, the rollout was slowed, and most likely because OpenAI has just a much better relationship with the government and with the Commerce Department. So they can release it, but it has to be a limited release and a targeted release. But the cybersecurity, I think, that people are really worried about, I think on the margin is coming from outside the United States. I think it's rarer, not rare, but rarer, more rare for like an international crime cartel to be based in Kentucky and committing cybercrime against, like, pick your big company in the United States, rather than these international crime syndicates being based in, pick your small Southeast Asian country. And those guys are still going to have access to Zhipu.ai or DeepSeek or whatever. So the whole ban to me seems, from a Commerce Department, just seems like silliness.
Yeah, I think to me it's just market control. They just want Americans to buy OpenAI or Anthropic. That's it. It's just like, from a sales perspective, they just want the American to buy American tech. That's all. And the only way to do that, it's the same as blocking BYD, blocking Huawei. Like, okay, you can say whatever you want about how dangerous they are, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe they just want to protect Ford and Chevrolet and Apple and all of these guys. And here it makes complete sense as well to me. Like, they just want the American companies to just buy OpenAI and Anthropic. And plus, if Zhipu is as good as Opus, but it's a tenth of the price, that's dangerous, right? Especially just before OpenAI and Anthropic wants to IPO. They can't let that happen. So no. They ban them, then they IPO, and then we see what happens.
Can I also make another point?
Yeah, tell me.
Do we not believe, and I'm just going to jump a couple of levels here, that Mythos 6.0 and Fable 6.0 and ChatGPT 6.0 are going to be way better than 5.6 or whatever the current model is for Anthropic?
Yes, for sure.
So are we just going to keep banning these things?
Yeah, this was like,
or at some point, we're just going to be like, never mind. We're just going to let these things go out.
Yeah, that was one of the main topic of discussion over the last few days, where I was like, okay, now are we entering a world where the governments are actually going to control every model release from now on, right? And
right. What do we think?
Oh, what I think is like, no, as soon as Chinese are banned and both companies have IPO'd, then everything goes back to normal.
Wait, do you think this is part of the IPO story?
I think that's part of the IPO story. Yes. Because once again, Michael, we've, I don't know, like, look, if you can go from a $30 million bill, and we are going to talk about that after in the context of Salesforce, to like a tenth of that with a model that is as strong as Anthropic Opus, wouldn't you do it? Like,
so remember, we were talking to one of our partners today, our last recording today for ATP Insights, and I asked the questions explicitly, do you think people are going to start to move to open source models? And he was like, absolutely. Excuse my language. He's like, absolutely. We're already seeing it.
Exactly.
And it's not just the open source models, right? One of the other things is that Zhipu AI is also an open weight model as well. So does everybody know what an open weight model is?
I think you can define for the audience.
So an open weight model is one where the internal parameters are known, where you understand what the weightings are. It's much less of a black box that's like behind some kind of API. If you release like what the weights are, you just get a much better understanding from an open weight and an open source. So now you can see all the calculations and understand, I wouldn't say completely, but much more clearly what these models are doing. And I think this is one of the sort of theoretical or philosophical differences between the way China's AI model, frontier model builders are doing this stuff, and the US. And I think they're jumping ahead. They're leapfrogging in this way because they do realize one of the things that we've been saying for a while now, and that is that the services around the way these AI models are used are going to be way more important. And again, this was corroborated by the guy this morning or this afternoon, than the models themselves. And these big frontier model makers are going to run into a gigantic problem. I'm just going to keep reiterating this until people really start paying attention that it's going to be just as expensive, if not more expensive, to train the models, but also to give the right inference results, even if you're not able to charge as much money for it as they're expecting to charge out into the future. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. So that's why, like, I think, like, the question of training is a real question because, like, I would love to see how much Anthropic and OpenAI have lost on either stupid decision or quick growth or or marketing or sales. Like, basically, like, how much of the money they lost was actually only training the model. And if we compare the cost of training the model for Anthropic and the cost of training the model for Zhipu AI, like, how does that compare? Are we, like, in the same neighborhood? Are we, like, much cheaper in China? Like, because then I think the underlying question after that is actually, do Anthropic or OpenAI knows how to train a model at the same price as the Chinese? And maybe they do, and they just waste a lot of money on other stuff, but maybe not. And if it's not, then they have a much, much, much bigger problem because the day that the pricing goes down and then they need to get everything much more efficient, I hope that they know how to make it much more efficient as of now already, because it's going to happen for sure.
Right. So let's go back and do this analysis in a way that's really clear, right? So the chips that the Chinese companies are using right now are probably older versions of NVIDIA chips or existing versions of Chinese chips that have been made recently, yeah?
Mhm.
And in either case, they're going to be much less expensive than the most recent Blackwell chips that NVIDIA has been producing for training,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But going forward, because the Chinese have had to build, the Chinese frontier lab companies have had to build in a constrained environment. We talked about this. The software that they're building to do the training, by definition, has to be more efficient from a compute standpoint than the US models, because just like everything else in the United States, there's an abundance of everything.
Mhm.
And the more powerful the chips are, the more you're going to use them. But the less, what's the right word, precise you're going to have to be in the development of your software to be able to do the training, because you just have access to the most powerful chips. Whereas in China, they have to be way more specific about how they're training. And over time, the software that they develop to do this training is just going to be way more efficient, which means it's going to be cheaper to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's going to be true over time. And that's going to be just as hard to catch up with. It could take a generation of training to catch up to that. And once the Chinese chips get to become as good as the NVIDIA chips, you're right. You're going to run into this real problem of, well, we're already way less expensive and we're way more efficient at doing the training. Now you're going to have to catch up to us. And there's no way, right? While the Chinese companies would buy the NVIDIA chips if they could to have the extra power,
Mhm.
there's no way the US companies are going to start buying Chinese chips. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
They can't even buy Chinese cars.
Exactly. That'd be funny. That would be funny, but no, same. They are going to be banned. Same. They are
Right.
too dangerous to be exported
Right.
or imported in the
Chinese chips
US.
are too dangerous to use. But the point is that, like, all joking aside, the Chinese are going to have to be more efficient because they're working in a constrained environment. The U.S. companies are working in an abundant environment and also an abundant capital environment where there seems to be. Although I do believe that that's going to end as we come into end of 2026 and beginning of 2027, the capital availability for investment into these huge companies at some point is going to dry up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when that happens, it's going to be very negative for these big US companies. But in
Yep.
China, the capital that's been raised to fund these companies is factors lower than it is in the United States. And it's just going to give them, from a software development perspective, they're going to have chips that are just as good. They're going to have models that are way more efficient. It's going to be a problem for
Yeah.
OpenAI and for Anthropic. Yeah.
Like now, actually, like now that we put, like, everything like this on the table, I wonder if OpenAI and Anthropic didn't make the mistake, Michael. Maybe they thought about something that is actually wrong, which is everybody will want the frontier model. Like maybe they were like, you know what? It doesn't really matter how much we invest into training the model, into our models, because we are always going to be the best,
Right.
and people will want to pay for the best all the time. And I
Right.
think this is the big learning, I would say, over the last few months, which is it's actually not true. People don't want the best. People just want something that's good enough, right?
Exactly.
And especially if it's a tenth of the cost, good enough is actually already perfect for a lot of people, right? So the market for the people who just want the frontier was the total machine story 3 months ago, like the Facebook, the Uber, right? Like the people who had some
Yep.
fun, but that stopped very quickly, right? Like very quickly, people were like, "This is too expensive. It's getting out of control. We need to start controlling this thing much better." And I wonder if it's the mistake that they made. Like they were like, okay, maybe everybody's gonna want the frontier. Okay, you have the frontier, you have the best, but actually that's not what people want. People want something that's good enough. People want AI, whatever it is.
So if it's just good enough that people want,
Mm,
and I don't disagree with you here either,
mm.
but it's like, do you need a Patek Philippe to tell time?
So that's not why you buy a Patek Philippe, but to,
No,
to
But,
tell
but
time,
it's
yeah.
not why, but you need it to tell time.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
point, though,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. No, absolutely not. Yep.
You don't need it to tell time. You could
No,
just have like an Apple Watch or a digital watch that you could
yeah,
buy for $19. I get the
exactly.
fact that the Patek Philippe is jewelry, but the point is that, okay, but everyone doesn't need jewelry and not everybody can afford jewelry. And in this case,
Yes, sure.
these
Good
big
point.
frontier models in the
Yeah.
US are being equivalent to jewelry.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
That's the
Actually, yeah,
point I'm
yeah,
making.
yeah, yeah. You're right. Like, it's a good analogy. Like, you don't need a patent fee to tell time. If you want to tell time, right? Like, which is basically you want to grow your company, you want to do marketing, you want to improve your developer. Like, you want to do everything better into your company, which is the equivalent of just want to have the time, right? Then you just buy something that just works, right? Like a $19 watch, like a $100 watch. It was what something a little bit beautiful, but you definitely don't need the best of the best in terms of watch movement and automatic movement and all of this, right? You don't need the Patek Philippe just to tell time, sorry. And
Yeah.
I wonder if it's not the mistake that they made. Maybe they thought people would buy them just because they are the best, and maybe they would stay with the best, but the market for people who want to buy the best is maybe the same size as the market for people who want to buy Patek Philippe, right?
Yeah,
Compared to Apple Watch.
and look, one of the reasons why I wanted to go through this today is
Mm,
because I think there's a little bit of hubris running through the development of the frontier models in the United States. This extreme pride or arrogance, or what is definitely defined as dangerous overconfidence. Yeah.
mm, mm, mm,
And that idea that like we're just going to build the best thing and everyone's going to come and pay for it because everybody wants the best thing. But I think you're right.
mm,
And I think they forgot about the Pareto principle as well,
mm.
right? That it doesn't have to be perfect to be effective.
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to learn this now. And because the learnings in the AI space happen so fast. I
Yeah.
mean, you saw this during the conversation we had with Boomy this afternoon. Like he and I were actually chuckling a little bit because I was like, in the old days, in March, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because normally, if you say in the old days, it's like 20 years ago or 30 years ago, but now it's like
Mm,
20 days ago or
mm,
60
mm.
days ago, because that's simply just how fast things are moving.
Yeah.
And I do think what these big model companies are going to figure out is that you don't need to have the best. You just need to have what's good enough. And the other point I want to make, Martin, because we talked about this a lot on Friday, and again, we wrote a whole article about it, is that there's a very strong likelihood that not only will OpenAI delay their IPO, but if Anthropic gets wind of the fact that that's going to happen as well, they may delay their IPO as well.
If that happens, this is such a bad signal. I mean, it's a good thing at the end of the day. It means that they are going back on track, right? And it means like
Well, it
maybe
means
they
they're
are
being just more realistic, right?
get more realistic, and it would mean like that's the end of just like all the craziness that happened into AI, right? And also maybe it would mean that they believe that after the IPO is gonna be really really hard to raise funds, and they need to raise a lot of funds to actually get to a proper decent business, because I think right now they are not a proper decent business right now. They're just
No, no.
profit machine right now, right? Like they just rush to the IPO, but maybe the IPO window has already closed. It's actually highly possible, right? It's actually highly possible. And if it is already closed, then first of all, they will never IPO at the same price. It's over. And the next funding round is going to be much lower as well. So the latest investors are going to the big hit, but at least it's going to be contained into the private markets, right? It's not going to be on the stock market. Because if OpenAI IPO tomorrow at 1.5 trillion or Anthropic, and then they end up at 500 billion maybe a year after, that is going to be a big loss for a lot of investors, right?
Right. So
Where,
the carnage in the private investment community is going to be
yeah,
gigantic.
yeah,
And while the times are different, I also wanted to make another point about gaps between last private funding round and
mhm,
IPO.
okay,
So I'm going to ask everybody a rhetorical question, but I don't expect them to answer it, obviously, because it's rhetorical. But just try to think about the gap between Google, which is a company that's out there that has billions of dollars of revenue that everybody knows about, that also has their own AI tools. The gap between their final private funding round and their IPO, which was on August 19th, 2004, so 22 years ago, was over 5 years.
oh wow, okay,
Okay. They raised and it was a Series A, but they still closed their Series A on June 7th, 1999. And they
okay,
did their IPO on August 19th, 2004. 5 years. So that it's not 5 years since founding. That would have been a different
mhm,
story, right? And OpenAI was founded in what, like 2017 or who knows what, right? But their last public round was in March.
mhm, mhm,
That's private round, excuse me, was in March. And Anthropic's last private round was like 6 days ago. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but very recent, yeah.
mhm, mhm,
And in both of those cases, they're trying to rush to an IPO. And I think the difference here, a few differences. First is the markets didn't move nearly as fast back in the early 2000s as they do today. That's one
yes,
thing.
yeah,
The second thing is the ad business and the search business, again, was not so fast paced as the AI business.
mhm, mhm,
But the third thing is that Google wanted to build a robust business before they went for an IPO because they wanted the IPO to mean something.
mhm,
And it was not so much of a money grab
mhm,
as it appears to me that that's what this OpenAI and Anthropic thing is.
yeah,
It's like, and again,
isn't,
sometimes you have to talk about this thing more than once so people can understand it. But the only reason why Anthropic did their most recent round was so that private investors could make money.
yeah,
Anthropic did not need this money.
I
They
think this
did
is,
not need it. Sorry, go ahead.
I think this is exactly why they want to IPO, because it's just a way to exit for the investors. That's it. That's it. That's really the
It's a
only
way to monetize the
point.
most
Yeah,
recent investment. Yeah. Because
exactly.
everybody else will make money regardless.
It depends on the exit price. Like if they don't IPO and the next one is at 500 billion, they're going to lose a lot of money, huh? Because
The most recent investors, but the investors prior to that will all make money still. Because remember, their
yeah,
previous
those at
round where they
400,
raised
yeah,
$30 billion was at 365
yeah, yeah.
Val. So
Mm.
those people aren't going to get, I mean, they'll get rich, but they're not going to get like ridiculously rich, but they're not
Mhm,
going to lose any money either. The only people that'll lose money at a $500 billion valuation, people that participated in the last round,
mhm,
and they deserve to lose money. They forced Anthropic to take that. And the investment bankers that did that deserve to lose the money too.
Yep, yeah, yeah. So I think this is the context here. I think it's
Yeah,
a money
yeah, sorry.
question at the moment, right? Like it's just like a money question. Who is going to lose money? Because this $1 trillion valuation makes no sense. So is it going to be the public investor if they IPO tomorrow, right? Or is it going to be the private investors who have put money into the latest rounds? We will see. But I think right now there is a lot of tension, right? Like I think that right now the tension inside OpenAI and Anthropic is absolutely insane. Everybody push them to do something different, I think. And
Right.
at the same time, I mean, they're the only one who have all the data about their business. I really wonder, like, if they are anywhere close to the Chinese, like in terms of efficiency, right? In terms of, okay, we spend this amount of money, we get that type of return, we get that type of income when and we have a way to have an idea of what's going on, Like, okay, if we put, I don't know, $10 million, $1 billion into training a model, okay, what is, the potential return of investment and things like this? And do they have any idea about all of these questions?
It
Because at
feels
some
highly
point,
unlikely, right?
this is going to be important at some point. And so how close are we to that type of business? I really wonder. I really wonder like how far they are. Um, yep. But one thing that's true is that more and more people use the open source models in their business. More and more. The market is growing really fast.
I
Really
mean, I
fast.
would ask you if you could orchestrate an open source model to do all of the things that Opus does for us, would
Mhm.
you do it?
To be honest, like it takes a lot of time to implement a new AI
Sure, sure, sure.
AI,
But I'm
right?
just saying, if
So
everything else was equal, right? Like if it was just easy, if you could just plug it in, you would do it, right?
and it just worked. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if it just worked, and we have, I mean, I love the idea of buying a $5,000 computer and then having AI for free for ever, right? Like
Right. Right.
I really love this
I
idea.
like that idea as well.
I think it's really, really cool. Like on the Z.ai website, if people wanna go buy it, their most expensive plan is at $144 monthly. I don't know like how much you can do with it, right? Because it really depends on the usage that they give you. But the most expensive plan on cloud is 200, right? So it's already cheaper. If you can do pretty much the same amount of coding, then you already pay 25% less, right? Using GLM 5.2.
5.2, yeah.
The API pricing is even more crazy. On the most advanced model, GLM 5.2, let me
Mhm.
actually show that to everybody so everybody has the information. GLM 5.2 output, we are at $4.4 per 1 million token, where Opus 4.8, let's have some fun. Because we say it's 10 times cheaper, but let's just actually verify all of that.
Let's double check that.
So we are here on Opus 4.8 output token, we are $25 per 1 million token, where ZAI is at 4. So it's five
So what does
times
that mean?
cheaper.
Does that mean that it's 6 times more efficient?
It's five times cheaper. That's what it means. Then is
That's what
it
I want to
like,
know.
yeah, is it like,
Sorry, you and I are looking at this on like in a mirror. I
yeah,
just did 4 times something to get to 25, so it's 6 points sometimes. And you're just saying like 25 divided, but you know what I mean, down to 4, it's
okay.
75% cheaper, whatever it is. Yeah, 6 times cheaper.
So yeah, so it's $4 on the API price, and basically $4 is what you pay right now for iCrew. Like iCrew, the cheapest model on cloud is $5, $5 per 1
I
million
know.
token. So when you think about it, it's like it's absolutely crazy because iCrew is able to do nothing. Like really, like it cannot code. Like really, that's a model that you use only if you want to do research, if you want to do some very light
Right,
writing, like
right. It's not meant to.
stuff like
It's not
that.
meant to replace like Opus 4.8 on the
Never.
vibe coding side.
Never, never, never. It's definitely not. And so if the coding side is actually cheaper than iCrew, it's like wow, absolutely amazing. First of all, but second of all, Mythos and Fable. So when Fable was released for like 2 days,
Mm,
it was priced at $50 per million token. So if GLM 5.2 is actually as strong as it, this time it's 12 times cheaper. 12
right.
times cheaper, my God. So which means with the same budget, you can do 12 times more, right? Like that's how people can see that, right? If I spend, I don't know, $10 million on token next year, I can do 12 times more if I use Z AI.
What's the
So
likelihood, though, that Uber, right, whose CTO
mhm,
famously said we burned through all of our
yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
is going to say, you know what, never mind, we're not going to use the US models, we're going to use Z.ai.
yeah. This is exactly the risk. And this is exactly why they need to IPO right now, before that happens. Because in case that happens, Michael, then I think that's the beginning of the end of the world for Anthropic and OpenAI. And that's why I don't know how ready they are for that. I hope they are.
They're not.
I hope they thought about it. I hope they listen to AGTP because we have talked about that a lot. But no, I really hope that they are ready because once again, like if they listen to AGTP or they listen to ATP, everybody tell us that they use open source model more and more and more, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so, and one of the most and one of the biggest driver, like sorry to say the same thing, but one of the biggest driver is because people say it's good enough and it's much cheaper, and this is perfect for people, right? Like they don't need Opus, they don't need GPT 5.6. They need something that's good enough, help them do their work, and that's much cheaper. Perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy. And so, yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. That's why
Do,
I mean that's why we need to IPO right now, basically.
but do you think we get to the point where OpenAI and Anthropic start to say, maybe we don't need to train our models to be, 10% better than everybody else's. Maybe we need to build a better business model around our existing models and we can do the training way more slowly and become way more efficient? Or do you just think they're just going to give up on that as a premise and just
So,
say,
so I
you
think
think that's
first of all,
post IPO?
so yeah, I think first of all, the IPO is going to tell us a lot about. I mean, yes and no in a way, because at some point they will need to build a real business, right? The IPO only tell us if it's the retail investor that lose money or if it's the private investor of the last round who lose money, right? That's really. But at some point, that these two things are going to converge into we actually need to make money, right? So like whether you IPO or not, they will need to have a proper business at some point, whether they IPO right now or not. But I think like what is going to be interesting, Michael, is I think the distribution. Like like this idea of having the cloud provider distributing the models is actually strong. Like it's actually a
Well,
strong
because you're
thing.
already there and you need the cloud to be able to do this stuff as well, right? So
Exactly. And actually, I think it's today or like a couple of days ago, yeah, June 28th, so yesterday, like ZAI announced, so Zhipu 5.5.2, that's this company. They announced that now they are available for Amazon Bedrock. So if you
right.
are building on Amazon, if you use Amazon product, now you can also get access to Z.AI latest model directly on
And they've already
Amazon.
done, and didn't Microsoft already do this for DeepSeek as well?
Microsoft already did that for DeepSeek. So this is I think for me like part of what is going to define what is going like what OpenAI and Anthropic are going to do next.
Yeah.
Because if the cloud providers start to become distributors and that works, which means like people start to pay Amazon to actually get access to the.ai, this is going to be huge. That's a massive competitor to go into the website and taking your subscription on your own, right? Like this is like such a properly set up, nicely embedded distribution mechanism into every enterprise in the world who use either Amazon, Azure, or Google Cloud, right? Like one of the three that they have, I don't know, maybe 70-80% of market share when it comes to cloud, like all the three combined. If you can buy your token from there directly, this is big, right? Like
So
so.
isn't this the bigger question though? When you're using Bedrock,
Mhm.
and frankly, when you're using other sort of orchestration tools like that, for lack of a better term, do you know, like, are you choosing a model, or are you just using are they running some kind of algorithm that says this is the best model for you to use? Do you know what I
So,
mean?
so I think at this point, I think you can choose the model that you want, and you see that they have plenty of models. They have their own Amazon models.
Yep.
They have Anthropic models as well. You can get from there. You have DeepSeek. You have Google's models as well. Meta there too. The Llama model, Minimax, Mistral AI. So they pretty much do. They have OpenAI as well. We have Queen. I think I saw DeepSeek as well somewhere. Yeah,
They
DeepSeek is
have
in the
all of
list.
the Chinese models there, and I
Mhm.
cannot be led to believe,
Yep.
because AWS itself is expensive,
Mhm, mhm,
and I
mhm.
can't be led to believe that that the people that are using the cloud are going to sit there and say, because someone's going to have to go to their boss and go, hey, I could use Zipu.z.ai
Yeah.
and spend 75% less money, or I could use, you know what I mean, Opus 4.8 and get slightly better performance, but pay full price.
So,
I
I,
just
so
don't see it happening over time.
actually, the price is going to tell us everything, Michael. How do they charge? Do they charge per token or do they charge for compute? Because if they charge per token, that's the same thing that we know. But if they charge for compute, which means they host the model themselves, and then they just charge you for compute, that would be very, very different. Quite a nice price.
Yeah, but
Maybe.
at some point, compute and tokens are going to converge.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. It's gonna
So
be
it's not going to matter. And at the end of the day, the open source models are going to be cheaper. Who did? Because the other question is then, who determines the price, right? Because again, if they sit on Bedrock or if they sit on GitHub or wherever Microsoft hosts them, and the charge for using the model itself is zero because it's open source, well, then how can Amazon put a spread on top of that? They will have to charge for compute, but it's going to be way less expensive because remember, those Chinese models are also more efficient. They're using less compute to get to the same result.
Yes, but this is where it's going to be interesting because like now that I checked, they charge the exact same price as the model providers. Okay, they just align on the same price.
That's it, though, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
But what gets interesting for me is actually the question of when, for example, they offer Anthropic Opus. Okay, if they when they offer
Okay.
Opus 4.8, does Opus run on AWS servers, or is Amazon Bedrock just the mechanism to actually connect to
To access it,
Anthropic
and then do
to
they run on their own Chinese servers?
and then it's
Mm,
Anthropic that just run it on their own infrastructure and they decide that, right?
right.
Because we could be in a situation where, because once again, Amazon owns a stake in like OpenAI and Anthropic, right? So we could be into a situation where Amazon told them, look, guys, you install your model on our own servers, okay? So we run it ourselves. First of all, that's why I was asking, do they charge for compute, which is AWS business model, or per
Right.
token, which is Anthropic business model?
Mm,
And because they could say, look, guys, you install your model on our own infrastructure, so we run it and we don't need you at all. Okay. And then we're just going to align on price for now, just to make it clear for people. But the day we want to change, we can, because it's already installed on our own infrastructure.
right.
And this is where I think that's why I mentioned the cloud provider. If this model becomes the first delivery mechanism, they will need to open source their model and Anthropic and OpenAI, because they will need to let AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure be able to sell them, be able to give access to them. Otherwise, they are just going to sell the Chinese models. They are just going to sell DeepSeek and ZAI
Well, yeah,
and
because it
all of
uses way
them.
less compute, and also it's way cheaper.
It's way cheaper. So every company in the world are going to be like, okay, I go there, and then okay, this is ridiculous price on Opus, so I just go to that AI. It's much better, right? And the only way that they can compete with that is if AWS can actually start distributing Opus, sorry, by themselves, and the only way to do that is to open source it. So that's why I
So,
think it's going to be a big defining factor here.
but it also raises another question. Remember, we talked about the US potentially banning the Chinese
Yeah.
models,
Mhm.
but they're embedded, for lack of a better term, into Bedrock already, all of them.
Yeah. Yes,
So
all
you're
of
going to
them.
shut those all down?
Or just not in the US. You just let Amazon sell it outside of the US, for example. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. It's in a way it's too late.
In a way, it's too late.
In a
The
way it's too
toothpaste
late.
is already outside the tube, and I
Yeah.
don't see it going back in because what do you do for all the US companies
Mm,
that look at the pricing on AWS and go, I'm just going to use Zhipu. I'm not going to tell anybody, but I'm going to use, because we've already talked about this, right? I'm going to use DeepSeek. And then they
exactly.
build all their workflows around it. And then they wake up one day and someone goes, oh, yeah, you can't use that anymore. Does that mean that like every US company that's using one of the open source models is now in trouble?
I f- I-
And I don't mean politically in trouble. I just mean like now they're going to have to redo all of their workflows. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And I can't see corporate America just like giving in across the board because we already know that there are some companies out there that are using Z.AI.
yeah.
So what are they going to do? Go out and then like double or triple their costs to go use 4.8 or whatever the new Fable 5 or 5.1 is? Because now the Chinese models get banned, it just doesn't feel like something that's going to happen to me.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think we'll see. I think we'll
I
see
know you
like how
disagree with me
much.
on this, but it just
No, no,
seems
no.
like
I
so
just
unlikely.
I just think it's going to be really competitive for both OpenAI and Anthropic, right? It's going to get really, really competitive for them as the Chinese get better and better and better, right? And so if you're the US, why not help them a little bit, you know? That's just what I think. But and plus also, like, let's not forget about something, Michael. Like, um, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they are all public companies as well. They all invested a lot of money into Anthropic and to OpenAI, so they kind of want them to win as well, right? Like, they don't really want their investment to go to zero. So I don't know what's gonna happen here, but once again, OpenAI and Anthropic, they will need to be able to compete with the rest of the market. So I don't know.
So
It's
my
gonna be a
feeling is
weird
it's going to be
moment.
less of a ban of the Chinese models, and it's way
Yeah.
more likely that OpenAI and Anthropic are going to have to go open source, and
Mhm.
maybe even open weight as well.
Yes. And then lower the price. I mean, they don't really need to lower the price, or at least be a little bit more competitive, probably. Especially if the AI is like 10 times cheaper, right, than
Mhm.
Fable. You're gonna have to be more competitive. Go open source. Let the cloud provider distribute everything. And then we are going to make money through compute in AI. That's going to be the number one thing. Like, infrastructure is going to be the big winner here. Like, big winner if that happens.
I'm thinking, yeah, yeah. I mean, we already know that infrastructure is going to be one of the winners, but I do think you're going to see a bunch of companies come out that provide the services around it, and those could be from
Yes.
anywhere. They may
Yeah.
not even exist right now.
Yes. Yes.
Like
But
if I were Anderson Consulting, right, or if I were one of these big consulting companies, I would just start building a massive practice around the AI stuff.
mhm, mhm,
Massive.
mhm,
Because at some level, right, and this is where the irony is coming out here, because there were people that were making fun of these consulting companies for welcoming the snake of Anthropic or OpenAI into their house so that they could just take over their business.
mhm.
Right? It's like, why are you guys going to do distribution for a company that's just going to try to take away your business over time? And the reality is they could flip this on them and just go, yeah, guess what? Because you guys are going to be worth zero unless you provide services. You don't know how to provide services, but that's something we've been doing for decades.
Exactly. Mhm.
Maybe we're going to be the ones in the value chain that are making all the money, and you guys are just going to be providing the pipes and like the commodity stuff for us to actually do our jobs better.
Yeah. And the thing is, and the big risk here is that AWS can say the same thing using the Chinese model. They can be like, okay, you don't want to help
Yeah,
us like sell compute and sell services?
no worries. Yeah,
Fine.
no worries
Exactly. No worries at all. We are
at
going to
all.
work with DeepSeek and ZAI. They do great stuff. They have great models. And guess what? They are open source. I can install them on all of our servers and do whatever I want, right? And this is why it's so dangerous for both Anthropic and OpenAI, right? Because the guys who actually have massive distribution all across the world, like already existing relationship with all the largest companies in the world, and all the set of services, their business around services, are the
Yep.
cloud provider who owns a big state in OpenAI and Anthropic, right? So either they say, you know what, just give up on that, and we just focus on our compute, which can work, or they force them to open source to be able to sell more compute.
Right.
So
So I'm going to make the case again that a company like Amazon or AWS
mhm.
doesn't care how much money has Amazon invested in Anthropic and OpenAI.
While you are searching for that, Max, did you try GLM 5.2? Because I know you use Claude as well. I'd love to have your feedback if you tried it. Because
You're
maybe I
not talking
tried
to me,
to.
right?
No. I'm talking to Max. Did you try GLM 5.2, and do you have any insights on like how it performs compared to Opus?
So I'm going to make the case here, Martin, that $83 billion was invested by AWS or Amazon into
Oh
both
well.
OpenAI and Anthropic.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if that just disappeared tomorrow, they wouldn't care.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a possibility. That's a high possibility, right? It
Yeah,
will
they
not go
just
to
would not care.
it will not go to zero. It will take some time to go to zero,
No,
but
they won't go to zero. They're
yeah, yeah,
definitely
yeah,
not going
yeah,
to go to
yeah.
zero. But my point is like, they don't need to make a ton of money on their investment in these
Yeah.
companies to
Yes.
just like be a continuing like AWS is not going to go bankrupt if for some reason OpenAI doesn't go IPO at like $1.5 trillion. They don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. It's it's highly possible. It's highly possible. Can you check Google and Microsoft, like how deep they are into that as well, to have like the total number of all three combined. Um, and yes, if you want to try Max ZAI as a subscription at like the maximum price is 140, their middle price like $70 for 1 month. So I was planning to actually try the subscription for like 1 month and just see how it goes, because it's gonna be cheaper than the API at the end of the day, and it just gives us some good tokens. No, I didn't try it yet. I didn't try GLM 5.2 yet, but it looks very promising. Like really, a lot of people are saying really good things about that. So I'm thinking like, okay, maybe I should try. Maybe I should try. But it's pretty hard, I think. Like I don't know what's your experience like while Michael is looking for the information, but I don't know what's your experience about using multiple models for one workflow. I feel like the testing is really the part that takes the most time. Like if you have a workflow that works with Opus and you want to make it work with another model, like retest every step to make sure that everything works the same is actually really time consuming. And
Yeah, I don't think you want to do. I don't
yeah,
think you want to have like multiple models here.
exactly, because most of the time, like you're not super sure that's gonna work the same way. Maybe you need to change the prompt, maybe you need to change the workflows, the data, and all of that. And if you change everything for the next level, then going back is going to be super hard, right? So I don't think it's really easy to actually have multiple models able to do the same workflow. I've
I don't
tried
think so. Yeah.
with OpenAI and Claude when Anthropic said, "Hey, we're gonna change the pricing," I was like, "Oh no, I don't want them to change the pricing," but I still install OpenAI into the workflow just in case, so I'm ready. And yeah, like the testing part to make sure that everything was still working, like took a lot of time, and I didn't want to tweak anything because I was like, I'm sure Anthropic is going to not change the price, so, so I don't need to actually change anything. But that really showed me like how much work would have been required to make it work.
Let's take a look at some of these numbers. So interestingly, Amazon has invested up to $83 billion in both of these companies.
Okay.
So that's combined. Google has only invested in Anthropic up to $40 billion.
Okay.
And Microsoft has invested up to $13 billion in OpenAI and $5 billion in Anthropic for 18. So it's what, 58,
Well, what's 10?
138, $141 billion combined.
So Amazon is the one that is like much more involved.
Double Google
Yeah,
and yeah, like 5 times
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
And you said up to, like, I remember that they did deals like we invest 40
Yes.
billion into
Yes,
you.
there are incentives, but so the Amazon numbers are not up to. I think those are just like raw numbers. The Google
Okay.
numbers are up to 40 billion, and Microsoft is up to 13 and up to 5 billion because there's some incentives there for hitting some KPIs. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, it's like it depends on how much OpenAI or Anthropic spends in compute with them, and then they just invest the money back in something like that. Like
Exactly.
that's how they structured the Google deal, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
which is weird, but anyway. but but okay, so Amazon is the one who invested the most money, and then Google and Microsoft. I'm really surprised by the number. It's really low,
Well, I
really
mean,
low.
it's low, but to be fair, Google has Gemini,
Hmm.
and Microsoft has been building their own Copilot stuff for a long time as well, building their own AI stuff as well. And their investment into OpenAI and into OpenAI in particular was so that OpenAI would use Azure,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And Anthropic was probably a little bit of the same incentivized investment of we'll give you $5 billion, but you have to spend that on Azure,
Hmm.
right? Because that's where they're making all their money.
Yes, I think this is going to be part of the story here, like how the relationship is going to develop with this cloud provider. They may push them to open source just because they want to take back the control to be
Exactly.
able to sell compute and to make money on their own, basically, right?
Mhm.
Without them doing crazy stuff, which is going to be to really raise the question of like how they are going to keep training their models, right? Once again, that's linked to the question of how close are they to being as efficient as the Chinese, right? Are they super far? Like, they really don't care at all about efficiency up until now, right? or did they care a little bit and they spend too much in marketing and sales? Like, I don't know. Like, we have no idea like how far they are. But with GLM 5.2 being as good as the Frontier model, now it's gonna be time to actually ask a serious question about how do you actually run your business.
So can we make the case that we've reached the point, Martin, where OpenAI and Anthropic are Tesla
Mm.
and the Chinese models are BYD?
If it is, it's very scary because Tesla, since BYD has like just fell down and down and down and down, right? It's like it's just really really bad for them, and that led to the ban of BYD, Michael. By the way,
I know. But again, hardware and software, it's very like you
yeah,
cannot put Zhipu on a container ship
yeah.
and send it around the Cape of Horn, whatever it is, and then have it be land at the port of LA. But that's what you have to do for BYD, unless you're buying it in Mexico. But you understand the difference, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, let's see how it goes. But me, like what I'm the most scared in a way for Anthropic and OpenAI short term is another DeepSeek moment. Like DeepSeek was what, Michael? Early 2022, right? When DeepSeek V1 was released. I think we checked last time.
2025,
2025? No, it was not last year. Was it last year?
beginning of last year, yeah.
Okay,
Maybe the
okay.
beginning of 2024.
Okay. So yeah, something like that. I think if something like this happened again, and maybe yeah, DeepSeek R1, like when they released their first model and they wiped out like $1 trillion in market value in the US, like maybe Z is the
January 2024. So I was
okay,
right.
so maybe it's like the first step, because it still does a lot of shockwave. People say it's really, really good, and you can stop paying for Opus and you can just get the model from Zhipu. So it's a little bit good, but I don't know. Maybe they are not strong enough in marketing. Maybe like there's something missing. But if if the Chinese do a little bit stronger, just do like a little bit better, in everything, because we like Z, they were not really known, I think, in the US. Like, actually,
No.
tell
And
us,
they
Mas,
changed
like,
their name.
so they didn't change the name. ZAI is the name in China, and Zhipu is the name for in international. So they used two names. So that's why us, Michael, we heard it as ZAI. We met them as well last month as ZAI. So that's why when I heard Zhipu, I was like, is it the same? I have to double check. But I don't know, like, in terms of
It's
market
so weird. So they
awareness.
use Z for China and
Mm,
Zhipu for external? Shouldn't it be
yes.
reverse?
Yeah, it feels to me it should be reversed. I agree, but I don't know if the market awareness um for this company, for this brand, was actually big before GLM 5.2. It
I
may
don't know
be
the answer to
small.
that question, but
Yeah,
I have heard about it. I've heard of Zhipu for a long time. I just haven't
okay,
really paid that close attention to it until now.
yep. So apparently, Match says Zhipu means apparently knowledge net in Mandarin. Michael, do you speak Mandarin?
I mean, I do, but I don't want to show off. No, I do not.
You show off only your Japanese, and then you stop here. You don't show off
I
your
don't show off
Mandarin.
Japanese either. I try not to let people I know I speak Japanese, but yeah, fair enough.
Okay, but yeah, let's see how it goes. I think it's gonna be a very interesting time, moving forward.
So, Martin, I'm going to let you choose what to do
Okay,
for the rest of the show because I have an idea.
tell me.
Well, I think we should publish an article about this whole thing we just talked about.
Yep, that's a good idea. I think you should. Yep, I think that's great.
I mean, I can definitely do that. But
Mhm.
do you want to add in this stuff for Masayoshi-san tonight, or do you want to just stop here? Up to you.
Yeah, I think let's talk about this story because that's slightly different, but it's interesting. It's interesting.
Okay.
Let's talk about that
So
a
let's
little
do
bit.
this. Let's transition. So Masayoshi-san, obviously the guy who runs SoftBank, yeah, I mean, he's basically like the Elon Musk of Japan. He's been investing in whatever the frontier is for the past like 30 or 40 years, and he's been right a lot and he's been wrong and hasn't cared. Um, and he's very outspoken. And I think he's also like 4'7", but I don't know that for a fact. It's just something that I think. But he's very demonstrative and he's also very sure of himself. And he's basically come out, and remember, he's also invested a ton of money in the United States. He's made a $30 billion commitment in the United States. to produce power, and that power is meant to be used for AI enabled data centers. So he definitely does have a dog in this fight. Now, what he's saying is he is saying that Elon Musk's data centers in space maybe is not like the greatest idea. He's not objecting to the fact that like this stuff could actually work. He's not saying that you cannot put data centers in space. He's saying that the math may not matter. And it may not matter soon enough that you can like throw all this stuff up in space, but it's not going to be. So why do they want to do this, right? If you go back and think about the reasons that both Philip Johnson, our good friend Philip Johnson from StarCloud, and Elon Musk from SpaceX want to put this stuff in space, is because they're like, well, energy's cheaper up there. We can put solar panels on these things, and once they're in orbit, we can get the throughput down to Earth really quickly, so it doesn't matter. And Son is basically saying, yeah, but the data center operating cost, only about 7% of that is power. And the chips and the related infrastructure dominate the economics of this stuff. And his point is, if that's true, if what he's saying is actually true, moving this stuff into space doesn't solve the main cost problem. And it adds stuff. And we've talked about this before, but it's good to have Masayoshi-san corroborating this for us. You got to launch it up there. You've got to maintain it. You've got to communicate with it. How long is the hardware going to last? And how do you replace stuff? Right? So the idea here is that there may still be some kind of use for compute in space, but maybe it's just for use in space, not on Earth.
So
And
like,
as a near, so like if you're going to send satellites up and like you want the satellite to do some sort of calculations or computations, but not for artificial intelligence, because while there's a lot of what's the right word, opposition to data centers on land, there are, again, I always feel like humans can be really good at innovating around constraints. So today, one of the biggest problems is, one, they make too much noise. Two is they use too much fresh water. Three, all these other problems that they have. It takes 2 years to connect to the power grid. Five, it takes up way too much power. But what we're seeing now is that if there is opposition to all this stuff, if there's enough money to be made in the data center, if the margins are high enough, I think people will figure out, the developers of these will figure out how to make them quieter. We already saw an example of, I think Microsoft was saying they don't need to use fresh water. They'll use recycled water. And that everything is just going to get more efficient. And if that's the case, then why are you going through the complexity of launching stuff into space? In my mind, it never made any sense. And, we'll have to get our good friend Philip Johnson to come on the show and tell us why we're wrong. But up until now, I still believe we're right. What do you think?
yeah, I think it's a really interesting ideas to put things in space. I really don't know, to be honest. I don't have an opinion on that. I really want to speak to people first. Like I want to speak to people who believe in this and people who finish their work, just to have their point of view. Just I've never done any research. I've never been to space. I've never checked like what's possible or what's feasible or like how does that work. So
Mm.
maybe there's a lot of stuff that I don't know or we don't know, right? In terms of just raw science, right, to make that work. And so yeah, so I really wonder like what's possible. But on the other hand, I like what Masayoshi-son, sorry, does. Like he's, as you said, like maybe Elon Musk of Japan, like he sees things big. He doesn't do anything small, this
No,
guy,
he's
right?
not. He never does small
Like
stuff.
he never does small stuff. Like maybe actually, Michael, does like you know him much better.
Mm.
Like maybe can you run us through a little bit like the history of such the main big bet that he made that made him famous and super rich? Like how did he became basically Masayoshi-son? Because it's a crazy story and he bet some massive bets like Yahoo and all of these things.
So the first thing he bought, what I believe, was CES.
Okay,
The first
okay,
important thing, actually, he bought a bunch of magazines in the United States, but this
okay,
is like in the late '80s and early '90s when tech magazines still made when they were still relevant.
okay.
Okay, he started making money there, And then he started making money there, but his big bet was on Yahoo.
Okay. Okay.
And the story goes, Yahoo was out there looking for $10 million. I've told this story before, but it's worth telling again. And he was like, 10 million bucks, who cares? I'll do this. I'll give you 100 million bucks. And which he did not have, by the way. I'll give you $100 million, and I want the franchise in Japan, yahoo.co.jp. And the Yahoo guys were like, who is this guy? But they took his money and they turned Yahoo into like one of the, original multi-billion dollar internet companies in the United States. And for the longest period of time, Yahoo Japan literally operated with impunity in Japan and was the biggest internet portal and the biggest internet everything in Japan for a decade. So he turned that 100 million bucks into $45 billion. Oh, I forgot. And then he was one of the earliest investors in what's that small Chinese company? Alibaba.
Okay.
So he also turned that into like $40 billion.
Crazy. Did you do something with Apple as well in Japan?
No, not that I know of. Nothing as
Okay.
significant as the Alibaba investment and as
Okay.
the Yahoo investment.
Okay.
But again, he's not always right. I've said this before.
Yeah. Like
He was one of the
WeWork.
biggest investors in WeWork.
Yeah, WeWork. Yeah.
He lost a lot of money doing that. Yeah, so he did. This is Max is saying this. I want to respond to a couple of things that Max is saying too. Yeah, he did invest in WeWork, but he didn't care because he operates. I think who was it that said this? Was it Wayne Gretzky? No, or was it Michael Jordan? It could have been either one of them or both of them. You never make any of the shots you don't take. And he was just like, I'm just going to keep swinging the bat.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep swinging it. Did I strike out at WeWork? Fine. What's next? AI? I'm going to swing the bat pretty strongly at that as well. Now, Max says, I want to go back to this data centers and space thing because Max says, I did some research. Seems like the plan is to put these satellites in low orbit. Yeah, that's why, by the way, that's why Amazon calls their satellite business LEO, low Earth orbit, LEO. Sounds like they're naming it after a lion, but they're actually naming it after low Earth orbit. But do we really want satellites falling out of the sky on a 2 to 3 year basis? It just feels really inefficient. Regular data centers don't fall out of the sky. You know what I mean? It just seems like an unnecessary. It seems like more of an ego thing to me. Hey, man, it's a great idea to put data centers in space. Why don't we just do that? That would be super cool, man. Can I have some more ketamine? Is really what I feel like this discussion is all about from an Elon Musk standpoint. I'd like to see somebody solve this stuff on planet Earth because I think that's where most of the data centers are going to be. And to be fair, you just saw a company, Firmus, in Australia, strike a deal with NVIDIA, a multi-billion-dollar deal to start putting data centers in Indonesia, which sounds confusing, but in Indonesia, there's a massive amount of available land. And I do think that there's going to be a lot of stuff learned globally on how to make data centers like better for communities. And I think over time that issue is going to get solved and no one's going to want to have a data center in space. Because even during that 2 to 3 year period of time, let's say if that's the life cycle of it, you're still going to have to maintain them. Someone's still going to have to pay. You can't just like put them up in space and say, I guess it's just going to work for 2 to 3 years. Like that's not the way this is going to work. I don't think.
But also, like, I think that also like the example of Indonesia is really interesting because if it's become really hard to build data centers in the US or in Europe, like in the Western developed countries, I'm sure 100% there will be a lot of very welcoming countries. Like people who say, you didn't put your data center here, we don't care, right? Like give us money, create jobs for us, pay your tax in our country, and you can put your data center anywhere you want, right? Like we have plenty of space for you. So then it just means like, okay, can we deliver AI in France with data centers in Mexico, for example? Is it going to work, right? Or how do we do it fast enough so then it works? Or if we want to deliver Europe, we can put data centers in North Africa. If we want to deliver North America, maybe we can do Mexico or maybe a little bit down, and all of Southeast Asia, I'm sure would be very happy to have more job and more people paying and
Sure.
investing money there. So at the end of the day, this is also a possibility, I think, right?
Yeah, I
When
mean,
it
I'm
comes to
not telling
getting
the
more
Thai
countries.
government what to
Yeah,
do,
no,
but I can imagine the Thai government going, "We got some land.
exactly. Yeah,
We've got plenty of water.
yeah, no
We've got
problem for
plenty of
us.
solar power, by the way, more solar power than most people think,
Exactly.
and we're happy to have data centers here." They've already done this with Google, I think, right? To decide to put some data centers in
I
Thailand, and
think it
I
was
wouldn't be
Microsoft.
surprised if they did more. Yeah, Microsoft, excuse me.
Yeah, I think it was Microsoft, like 2 hours away from Bangkok, somewhere
Yep.
in Thailand, right? Like it's a big, big, big country, Thailand, where there's a lot of lands
Well, I
and
mean, just look.
yeah.
I mean, I was working with the
Mm,
Thai government on something called the Eastern Economic Corridor, which is where a
okay.
lot of the manufacturing plants are there. But there's still plenty of open land
Mhm.
in the EC, which is what it's called. And could you imagine, like, outside of Chonburi, outside of all those places, just having like massive data centers there? And remember as well that there is an unused airport, an unused Air Force airport there that they're going to modernize and make into an international airport. And Suvarnabhum's not that far away. Chonburi has a deep water port, and they're going to build high speed rail between the EC and the rest of the country, which means getting there is going to be easier. Like all these things could mean they're going to put data centers there in a way that like they have not put before.
That's actually a really good, that's actually a very good point. It could be a really nice opportunity for these growing economies, right? Like
Yeah,
Thailand, for example, like South America, to actually say, hey, look, guys, like let's use that actually as a vector of growth for us, right? Like
yeah.
they are not creating their own model, like there is no time model, but building the data centers here, I don't think that's a problem at all, right? Like
Well,
no problem.
remember, Mark, we had
Yeah.
a conversation with Amity,
Hmm. Yes.
which, while domiciled in Singapore, is essentially a Thai company, and their connectivity to some of the largest corporates in Thailand may make the case for them to start building data centers, AI-enabled data centers in Thailand. And the Thai government has been insanely savvy, very smart, again, about finding out what the next tech wave is and benefiting from it.
Yeah. No, it's true.
So they're very smart this way.
It's true, and I would say that the tech infrastructure in Southeast Asia is just
Insane.
amazing, right? Like, I mean, when you go to Singapore, when you go to Thailand, when you go to all of these countries, like, I mean, you have access to much better infrastructure when it comes to internet, when it comes to mobile coverage, like subway and all of that is like a million times better than in the
I'm
West,
laughing because
right?
in the
Like,
smallest town in Thailand,
you have 5G, like.
you have 5G, but you also probably have better like internet connectivity than you do in Manhattan.
No, it's highly possible, right? Like, I mean, for
No.
years until like this year, really, I had better internet connectivity in Thailand than my family in France, right? Like when you think about it, it's just crazy. And I don't even talk about the subway and all of these things that are 10
Yeah.
times better in Southeast Asia, right? Even in a country like Thailand that is not as rich as Singapore, for example, you have way, way, way better tech infrastructure and infrastructure overall. So yeah, no, it would be a huge opportunity for them. A huge opportunity to say, you know what, let's just let Microsoft, Google put their data center, SpaceX, right? Actually, I wouldn't be surprised that SpaceX put a data centers in Southeast Asia soon.
No, would not surprise
Yeah,
me at all.
I
Would not
wouldn't be
surprise me at all.
surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Because Singapore does a lot of stuff in space as well, and they are pretty much involved.
Mm.
So yeah, something in Indonesia, but it's just massive, right? There's so much space. Or
And
Thailand.
now there's precedent for building data for
Yeah.
foreigners building data centers in Indonesia.
Mm.
We'll probably talk about Firmus on ATP Insights on Thursday. So if anybody's interested, you can listen to that show as well because it's really, really big news and it's related to what NVIDIA wants to do in this region as well. So really big stuff.
Super, super, super. And maybe Michael, we can finish this story with my favorite quote from him. Like really, I
I'll let you do this one,
like he
and then we can
said
go. Then we can go home.
a couple of days ago, basically, during an investor meeting, he said Jesus Christ was also misunderstood. I think this is the best. It just really tells everything about him, I think. He just summarized the entire this situation when you can
I,
say something like that.
this is not the first time I heard it. I'm still laughing. He's such
Yes.
a megalomaniac. He's his sense of self importance is so high. Actually, now I have to check this, Martin. Sorry, just give me 1 second before we stop this. I want to find out.
I think it's just insane. Jesus Christ was also misunderstood. Which, by the way, I wanted to ask you that, Michael. That's interesting for a Japanese to use Jesus Christ, because it's not a Christian country. So I was wondering, like, was he speaking to Westerner? Because that would
Well,
be
it was an investor meeting, so it may and SoftBank has a lot of foreign investors.
okay, okay. So maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Because in Japan, that if you were talking to Japanese people, you wouldn't use Jesus Christ.
No.
So
But Buddha wasn't misunderstood, so I don't think he was going to say like even Buddha was misunderstood.
that was less nice.
It would have been funny if he said Santa Claus was misunderstood. That would have been funnier, but
Yes, I love that quote, and that was just a couple of days ago. That's perfect.
and just to be clear, he's you know how I said he was short? He's going to hate me for this, but yeah, LMAO for sure. He's 5'5".
Which is how much in centimeters?
Well, he's 2 inches shorter than we are.
Okay. Okay. So it's really
That
tall
makes
then.
him what, 163, 164, something like that, 165.
Okay. Yeah, I think this article from the Financial Times is really funny. Like,
That's the best.
after disclosing SoftBank had run up a record $13 billion annual loss on Monday. And he says Jesus Christ was also misunderstood.
But so before we sign off, Martin, I want to tell another quick story about Masayoshi Son because I think it's really
Yeah.
important and I want to get the name right. Because I heard this guy speak and he said something really interesting. I want to get his name right.
Okay.
Yeah, Ken Miyoshi.
Okay. Go ahead.
So he's a director and long-term operator at SoftBank Group and frequently credited Miyoshi. So Son, Masayoshi Son, frequently credits him as his primary domestic right-hand deputy and executor who managed telecoms and all that stuff. I was at a conference in Korea. This is years ago. And Ken Miyoshi was telling this story about like when SoftBank itself was first founded.
Okay.
And Masayoshi Son stood up, he said, on a milk crate to address like the 7 or 8 people that were in the company.
Mhm.
And he was like, look, and remember, he's a little guy, right? So he had to stand. That's probably why he was on the milk crate. But he stood up on the milk crate and he was like, we are going to turn SoftBank, which at the time was like a zero, it was nothing, into like the biggest company in Japan worth like 100 billion. He was just saying crazy stuff.
Mhm.
And if there was, let's just say if there were 7 people there, 5 of them were just like, this dude's insane, and just like walked away. One of them was Ken, who stayed apparently, and the other one was like a secretary who's now like a multimillionaire. But he's always been this way.
Mhm.
Always like, again, aiming large, as you said, never doing anything small, never thinking small, and always thinking like, I'm going to be just as misunderstood as Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, so that's why I really like to talk about it, to have a look at what he does, right? Because again, he doesn't do anything small, and when he wins really big, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, and as you said, like sometimes you lose, but it doesn't matter, right?
He
Because
doesn't care.
then he just focus on the next big thing, and he just keep going like this. And yeah, no, it's really interesting what he does. I really like to and plus we have some fun with his quote, so perfect.
Mark, can I make another point though about
Yeah.
his own self-confidence as well?
Mhm.
During the global financial crisis in 2007, I was at Citigroup, and Citigroup was one of his biggest bankers,
Okay.
and his stock was getting shorted aggressively.
Okay.
The SoftBank stock, and a lot of his net worth is tied up in the stock because he's a strong believer in himself and in his company. He got mad
Okay.
because his stock was getting killed, and he negotiated with Citigroup a way to do. It was called a PIPE. I think it's
Yeah.
called a private investment in public equity.
Okay.
But he had to borrow heavily
Okay.
to be able to buy back his own stock because what he wanted to do was buy stock and drive up the price so that the shorts were like kind of cleaned out of the market.
Okay.
But he also wanted to own more stock because he was like, screw you guys. You
Okay.
don't understand the value here.
You want to sell?
And like,
Great.
yeah, you want to sell? Fine, sell to me. So he went out and borrowed money and bought the stock back. And obviously after that, the stock like skyrocketed.
Okay.
I bet I still know the stock code. I'm going to guess it's 9984. Just off the top of my head is what stock code in Japan? Please be right. SoftBank. Nailed it.
Perfect. Good job. Good job. Like, how important is SoftBank in Japan? Because you were like
Huge.
watching during like this massive
Very
growth.
important.
So like how important is it? Like how like I don't know, how is Masayoshi-san
He's a
like seen?
hero.
He's a hero?
He's a hero.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like kids were like 20, 25 years old, like they want to work at SoftBank, they want to work with him, like he's like the guy to they like to look up to.
He's a hero. Yeah.
He's a hero,
He's a
okay.
huge hero.
That's cool.
Martin, just type in 9984.t or .jp and you can look where the stock is today based on where it was in 2007. Just do max on it.
Wait, okay. How do I find that? 9984, right? GP stock.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, got it. Got it.
Then look at like the total amount of shares, not total amount of shares, like the total amount of time you can look at it.
So max. Okay, it's like it was like a bit thing weird in 2000, but then 2001 it was like 100 yen roughly.
Yeah, but look at what happened between 2005 and 2010. So you can see it go back up actually in like 2006 and 2007. It went sideways for a while, but now look at where it is.
Yeah, now it's like crazy now. Like
Anyway.
4,000 yen. 3.5, 4,000. 5.8 actually. Yeah, 5.8 actually.
5894.
In the year to date, it's plus 27%. But it is taking a hit because of OpenAI. Like we talked about
It
that.
is, but again, he's
Yeah,
the
he doesn't
the
care.
one thing you have to understand about Masayoshi-san is he's not in it for the money. He's in it for the winning. He's just in
fighting.
it to be right. That's it.
That's really funny.
He does not care. Anyway, I just
That's
want to
really
take a
funny.
look at the stock price.
But yeah, but maybe that just like to tell the story to everybody who's listening, like the OpenAI thing. Like SoftBank is a big investor in OpenAI. Michael, can
Yep.
you double check like how much money they put? And basically,
$30 billion recently, but let me double check.
yeah, maybe
How
total.
much
And
has
basically, SoftBank investors wanted OpenAI to go public because then they can actually have an exit of on the money that they put, but
Yep.
also have an idea of like what's the price of this thing. Because right now it's still very very unsure, I would say. And if OpenAI delay their IPO, which they said last week, then this can't happen. And so that's why SoftBank lost 15% basically last week.
So SoftBank owns roughly 13% of OpenAI. They've committed
Okay.
a total of $64 billion of investment. So more than
Google and
any other
Microsoft.
company combined. That's why they're one of the largest shareholders.
Wow, okay. Okay, to say so that's why they really wanted. And so 64, they have 13%. Like right now, it's worth 130 billion roughly, right? So they doubled their money already. And so if they IPO at 1.2, 1.3, that's like another very good amount of money. So that's why they really wanted to IPO. They really want OpenAI to IPO. And I think this really tells a lot, Michael, about the dynamic because we talked about SoftBank, but I'm pretty sure every investor is in the same situation, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody is like, you get to IPO because we want our exit and we also want to have an idea of like what's the market price because we think it's absolutely insane. And so we want to exit based on the $1 trillion valuation of your latest private rounds. You have to IPO higher than that because we want to make money. And yeah, and SoftBank, that is a public company, lost some pricing into
Yeah, we talked about that when we talked about the IPO on Friday.
Yes. So I think that's really telling as well of like the pressure that is right now on for and OpenAI from the investors themselves as well. Because if the investor were like AI is going to be much bigger next year, OpenAI is going to be much bigger next year, maybe they wouldn't push too much for an IPO this year.
I want to do one more thing and then we should stop. He's not even that old, actually.
Yeah, he's 62, right?
He's 68 years old.
68? Oh, they say 62 on the Financial Times.
They're wrong. He was born in 1957.
Okay.
He'll be 69 this year in August.
Yeah, he still has a good 10 year ahead of him.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
Yep. Okay, so we may see more and more craziness from him over the next 10 years.
Okay. Let's stop there, Martin.
Yes, I think we said a lot of things. I've said a lot of things. Pretty
We
cool.
did.
Yeah.
We did. Okay. And I will definitely, everybody who's listening and everybody's watching, expect an article about the first segment that we did today.
Yep. But
You'll find it on X and on LinkedIn.
on your personal X and your personal LinkedIn.
My
Yeah.
personal X and my personal LinkedIn profile. I will
Totally.
try to get that ready for tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. That would be it for AGTP Daily. And again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the interaction. We love every second of it. Give us a thumbs up on today's video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us on X. Subscribe to us on Instagram. Subscribe to us on LinkedIn. As I said, follow us on all of our socials. We love the comments. Keep them coming. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Michael Waits. I'm going to say goodbye for now.
Yes, thank you everyone, and see you tomorrow, same time, 11 a.m. Bye-bye.